All right, so making your own collage paper can be a really fun, satisfying way to create original elements that you can work into your mixed media collage. I just have some acrylic paint here, and these are just chunks of poster board. You could use your sketchbook paper and do some pretty fun and gratifying things with this. I'm just gonna mess around with a few different techniques that I like a lot. One of my favorite is something called Gritage. It's kind of developed by Max Ernst way back in the days, a surrealist painter. I want to say like 1900, something like that. And it involves using thicker acrylic paints. And he used oils actually, thicker acrylic paints, and then basically creating like a compression on that paint to get it to do some really texturally interesting things. So I just flip this over, and I kind of create a symmetrical print with that. And the idea is to kind of go back and forth with this until you get some kind of like interesting textures that kind of pull across. I don't know, I'm not super happy with that, so I think I'm gonna break up the space a little bit here. Maybe a little bit more blue involved, that kind of thing. And again, using blue and orange together will probably create, oh, that's much better. We'll probably create some weird kind of brown type stuff. So it's up to you if you want to do that, but you never really know what you're going to get until you've done that experimentation. So I'm really digging the feathering happening here. That's a lot of fun. Just kind of folding these things over. If something occurs to you, like what if I do this, right? Do it. My students experiment. They have a lot of fun doing this. And then they get a really original, cool look. The nice thing about acrylics is they dry really fast, right? And they're nice and strong. Another thing I like to do that's kind of like a fun, easy, quick thing is doing some scraping. So I like the textures that you can get from scraping. So I'm gonna use 2 primaries so that I can maybe get some secondary mixing in there as well. And then I just use like a piece of cardboard, and then I just kind of use it like a squeegee. Sometimes it looks great. Sometimes it's not very interesting. Like, this is not very interesting to me. So I might just kind of like, just create some gestures that come through there. I might even pull some, like maybe some white would look better with all this, right? I might do some gritage over here. I think I'm gonna get more out of this. There we go. So sometimes having like a rough edge on there can create like cooler stuff. I think what I'll probably do with this though, since it's not like super fun or interesting, I'll let it dry and then I'll bring some like brighter colors over it and then repeat that process to make a more complex textural look. Another fun thing to do is to create a wash. And the way that works is that you're gonna add water to your paint. And again, works best with acrylic, but you could use tempera for this. So you wanna thin your paint out, right? And sometimes when you're using cheaper acrylics like what I have, it doesn't wanna dissolve very well. So you kind of have to crunch it up and move it around, those kind of things, just to get it to where it doesn't get clumpy, because it will get clumpy, and you want it to be a nice smooth thing. You almost want it to be like ink. Like that pigment should be really evenly dispersed throughout all the water. So if I'm not sure what that's gonna look like, I'll try it over here, right? I'll just paint like a little spot on there. And if it looks like it's got a lot of chunky business in there, then I probably need to mix it a little bit better. But right now I think it's good. So now what I'll do, let's see. And this is how I did the gold on that piece that I was demonstrating for the last element. I add a good deal of water to that paper. And what I want to do, so I want to allow that water to saturate the paper such that it soaks in really well, but I want enough water on the surface, and it may be kind of hard to see this in the video, that it kind of rests on the surface as well, because the water that soaks into that paper is going to allow the paint to like soak in those areas. But the water on the surface creates kind of like a vehicle. So when I put pigment on that, the pigment can disperse from where it's at. So I feel like this is a pretty good location here. I've gotten like a nice setup. I think it's gonna work out, we'll see. So. You can see some of the chunky stuff happening in here, so maybe I needed to spend a little bit more time getting that to dissolve better. So the main thing about a wash, right? And I learned this in grad school. When it looks nice, leave it alone, because you overwork a wash and you don't get the really beautiful stuff, like all of the little channels and rivers that you see in there. And I like to use like another color, like a darker color. And I like to get that to kind of like merge in. So I kind of take a little bit of that blue, try to make somewhat of a violet. But it's not very like thin, so maybe if I thinned it out, it would look a little bit better. But now the secret to this, like, you know, the first secret is don't overwork it, right? When you're cool with it and you're happy with it, leave it alone. The second secret to this is leave it dry exactly where it's at. It's gonna continue to change. But as the paper dries out, this pigment's gonna settle in, and then you're gonna have some cool areas that you can work with. Maybe not the whole thing, but you'll have some cool areas to work with. A lot of my students get really into the whole idea of like splatter painting, kind of creating a lot of different colors in there, and sometimes that creates really cool patterns too for your handmade collage elements. Watercolor works really well for this as well.